One of the fundamental political misalignments, or misunderstandings, of the 21st century has been the left's adoption of mass immigration as a value or ethical position to maintain. It wasn't always this way. Previous populist leftist leaders, such as Bernie Sanders, openly criticized the concept in the early 2000s as the economic warfare against the working classes that it was. It is strange, then, to see it now promoted by the left-wing political base and their endless sea of NGOs, who seem intent on maintaining it as the moral or ethical standard. Anyone who views it critically is decried as an anti-humanist racist, rather than being recognized as the pragmatic and critical individuals they likely are. We circle back to the initial question, why? Well, the answer is fairly simple. Corporations saw the largely bipartisan protests of 11/12 during Occupy Wall Street as a genuine threat to their entrenched power, particularly through finance. The fallout of the 2008 crash was so severe and damaging to public trust in institutions, both governmental and non-governmental. Grassroots activists from the right-wing Tea Party openly joined in protest alongside anti-capitalist leftists, anarchists, and their tangential political allies. This kind of true working-class protest, crossing the political spectrum, is one of the few ways non-violent mass political change can occur. The protests of the Arab Spring might have been foremost in their minds. The easiest way to avoid such uprisings is to employ tactics used by empires and totalitarian regimes in the past. Divide the population, then conquer it. Racism was the tool employed to do this. The grand narrative within the Pan-American left at the time had been the struggle, both real and exaggerated, against the institutional racism within the United States. This struggle, due to its philosophical basis in humanist Rousseauian philosophy, stood paramount, akin to a religious crusade. This is why it was so easy to subvert the idea that mass immigration was a negative within the American left. Simply implying that it was racist to oppose mass immigration created an internal contradiction. People defaulted to not being racist because at the core of their philosophical understanding, all human beings are equal and the same, only molded by society. Therefore, it was considered racist to suggest that anyone from anywhere couldn't emigrate and immediately become productive and socially integrated. This shift was achieved through corporations funding NGOs to promote mass immigration as a concept. These NGOs, in turn, funded protest movements and produced academic research to support their hypothesis that mass immigration is a positive force, without proper criticism or oversight. This narrative was then disseminated into various grassroots activist groups who take their cues from these NGOs. Eventually, these activists normalized the idea and pressured individuals in their circles to adopt it. Corporations, NGOs, academics, grassroots activists, wider activist circles, academia, wider society. Now, why would corporations be interested in promoting mass immigration and ensuring its implementation in Western nations? And why does it hurt the working class? Corporations use it as a way to suppress the cost of labor and, by extension, weaken the individual workers' bargaining power, allowing them to generate higher profits. This influx of labor also weakens the bargaining power of unions. The foreign population, often with no loyalty to any community beyond their fellow immigrants and the federal authority that brought them here, competes with the native population for jobs, essentially acting as societal scabs for large corporations. Often, much of this immigrant population arrives illegally, aided by the aforementioned NGOs. These individuals have no legal rights and can be paid under the table or below market rates, further weakening the labor value of the native working class. This creates a proto-serf or slave class, which was historically a major issue in places like Rome and contributed to the collapse of both the Republic and the Empire. Finally, ethnically diverse populations are easier for empires and totalitarian regimes to control. Without a singular ethnic group for the working class to organize around, it becomes much easier for cultural, language, geographical, and philosophical differences to get in the way of true mass cooperation. This allows a small elite to pit populations against one another, eliminating any real chance of revolution. For these reasons, corporations and their allies in federal governments have maintained the illusion that mass immigration is a virtue of the left purely as a Machiavellian power play. This tactic continues to undercut the native working classes whom they have feared since 2011. Until prominent figures on the American left can escape this philosophical trap, they will remain nothing but the stooges and useful idiots of the corporations and oligarchs in the West, whom they claim to despise.